Thank you for giving me your time to share smartcrowds' point of view in relation to the subject of ideation and innovation. We're a 10-year-old company with a pedigree of building innovative software solutions for a variety of sectors. And we've had innovation at our own core from the very beginning. I'd like to start by sharing a few statistics from some recent surveys. 90% of innovation programs and ideas fail to bring implementation as expected. In a recent Harvard Business Review, following a survey of, I think, 164 executives at companies with a turnover in excess of $1 billion, 41% said that handover from idea to business unit execution was either terrible or a complete failure. Mark Payne, who actually ran the innovation programs for companies like Coca-Cola, Starbucks, Samsung, Citibank, amongst others, actually concluded that 90% of all ideas are a complete flop in actually becoming an outcome. Gartner also produced a survey recently, and their survey on innovation stated that 58% of CEOs plan to increase their spending on innovation because innovation does accelerate growth in a company and provide a most reliable and attractive route to competitive differentiation. And finally, in PwC's innovation benchmark study, of over, I think, 1,000 or 1,200 executives in 44 countries around the world. That survey, when speaking to those leaders responsible for innovation, they indicate that the strategies that they're about to employ around ideation collaboration are expected to add around 15% growth to their companies over the next 15 years. So one thing is really clear, ideation and innovation can help the bottom line. CEOs and executives are willing to spend money on it, yet there does appear to be a significant issue in turning ideas into outcomes that actually do contribute to the bottom line. So let's start talking about this in a little bit more detail. As we have been speaking to many prospects and organizations, it's really interesting because what we're finding in terms of participation is that there is actually a decline in staff participation. So we're actually hearing repeatedly that organizations are recognizing that the best ideas are no longer the sole providence of the senior executive team, that they do want more engagement with staff, not just the internal staff, but the extended supply chain and their business partners. Yet getting that staff participation is really difficult. The net effect of this is either a flat or declining level of participation and engagement, which is actually disappointing because many contributors believe that their ideas are never followed up and actually it's become nothing, so they don't actually contribute anymore. On the other side, we have this kind of interesting line which represents the challenges that we're often hearing about. The first of which is actually kind of gathering the various ideas in the first place. And what we're hearing is that companies are not gathering the ideas to allow them to determine what are the 1, 2, 3 things that might make a difference to their business performance. Either in improved efficiency in terms of lowering costs, increasing profits, or ultimately improving satisfaction with staff partners and customers. Secondly, we're actually seeing certain issues on ascertaining whether the ideas that are actually put forward are the best ones. So what I might believe is a great idea for improving service quality, for example, might not be the best in terms of meeting identified company measures, or indeed some of those performance indicators that all of our organizations are looking at these days. And finally, thirdly, what we're hearing is, how do we make sure that those ideas, if there are any, actually deliver the outcomes that we're looking to get? I've seen many ideas implemented fully or partially that never actually, measure the outcome to see whether it delivered what we started to think we would deliver at the start of the programs. And often what we hear said is that sometimes there's nothing quite so permanent as a temporary arrangement. And finally, we have this issue of visibility. And how do we make sure that we learn from the mistakes that we've maybe made in the past, and we learn from the good ideas, and kind of keep a central repository where we can share and others can glean from what has worked and what hasn't worked, and the reasons why. So in the summary of our our findings, we're seeing that there's been kind of many failed implementations in bringing together the distance between the challenges and the lack of participations. And in fact, some of the research actually suggests that 3 out of 5 organizations fail to implement the best ideas. We're also seeing that because of this gap, there are slower growth rates as a result of the ideation process that companies are bringing forward. And we're often seeing the fact that 70% of organizations are wasting time and money by repeating the same gaps or the same issues that we have. Now, this gap we often refer to as ideation frustration, and really it's this gap that is causing the issues in terms of why some of these programs are not succeeding and not getting and delivering the benefit that we hoped they would. So here at smartcrowds, what we've been doing over the last 3 years is actually building a platform and a solution to resolve these issues. And so what we've focused on is actually the ability to build a platform with a single repository to actually collect all of the ideas that can be brought forward by multiple participants, whether they're working on a smartphone or whether on a tablet or a traditional computer, whether they're staff, partners, suppliers. It doesn't really matter. We've also focused on building something that allows for collaboration, so that the multiple stakeholders can actually participate and hone the ideas as they come forward. Because again, we've found that there's no one place is the best place for an idea, or one individual is the best for an idea, and actually gaining collaboration through a single repository, through a single platform available over the internet is actually what people are starting to look for. We've also been focusing very, very closely on the whole idea of metrics, and the ability to measure performance and make sure that the ideas that are coming forward actually are the best, and make sure that they actually, when they're implemented, they meet the company objectives that were set out. And in doing so, we've also focused on this kind of whole area of learning, and as I say, keeping a central repository where all of this information is stored in one place. And our objective is really, really clear here. We want to reduce the number of failures. We want to ensure that businesses grow quicker. We want to stop the mistakes being made. And ultimately, what we're doing is to move this line here and close this ideation gap, or this ideation frustration. So what I'd like to do is I say thank you for your time. We want to, and we believe passionately about the fact that the smartcrowds platform can increase productivity. It can benefit staff participation and engagement, that it will deliver better bottom line results, and actually ultimately implement truly transformational ideas. So thank you for listening. I'd really like to spend a little bit of time to understanding some of your challenges and see if we can actually help one another.